All right, so on Halloween, on Sunday, Washington Post does a big investigative report about the intrusion on the Capitol on January 6th. Okay, that's good. I'd like to have investigative reports about what happened on January 6th, particularly that the government did not protect the Capitol the way it should have. That is a legitimate story. All right, so the Post does this, but of course they spin it that the Trump administration was mostly responsible for the lax security. Okay, so the Trump people then reply to the Washington Post. Now, I'm not going to get into the micro. If you're interested, you can read the Washington Post article and you can read the Trump reply on Trump's website because the Washington Post wouldn't print it. They printed a little of it, put it up on the screen. Quote, this is from Donald Trump's spokesman, Taylor Budovich. The media has failed to do its job, including truly exposing Silicon Valley for its role in illegally rigging the election with hundreds of millions of dollars in dark money, which is probably a gross underestimate. America is furious at the results of November 3rd and deserve answers. They deserve to protest and demand the truth from their representatives. However, since the media is not asking the questions, it's being left up to the people to seek the truth. All right, so that's what was printed in the Washington Post, but they did not print the specific objections the Trump people had to the Post's article. They should have. Now, this happened last week. You remember the Wall Street Journal printed a letter in its entirety from Donald Trump because the Wall Street Journal said, look, much of this voter fraud stuff isn't true. All right, it's not true. And then the Post listed what wasn't true. Trump objected to that because Trump believes the election was rigged. And the strong point that Donald Trump does have is the Zuckerman money, okay? $430 million. He calls it dark money. It was dark money. Nobody knew about this until the story was broken a few weeks ago. Molly Hemingway broke it, and then I picked it up. So Zuckerman from Facebook poured $430 million in to the mail-in ballots to do whatever they did, and we don't even know what they did. That's a lot of jack, and there was a reason he did that. Okay, so the Washington Post should have printed Donald Trump's objection to its article in totality, and then did what the Wall Street Journal did. Take it apart. This is true, this isn't true, this is how we know it, blah, blah, blah. That's journalism. That's what journalism is, all right? You present both sides. One side inevitably is going to be wrong. And then you present as many facts as possible. One illuminating fact. I dealt with the Washington Post 5 years ago, and I gave them a story that was solid, and I backed it up every way you could back it up. And they would not run it because the editor, Marty Barron, at the time, did not like me personally. And it was an important story. I'm not going to get into it any more than that today, all right? But I will tell you, the reporter wrote it for the Washington Post. All right, and he's an honest man, and someday I'll put his name out there, but not now. And Marty Barron, and they call it the second floor at the Washington Post building in D.C., killed it because they didn't like me. Not because it wasn't true,